Hello friends. So let's start with today's session. To begin with, we will briefly summarize what we have studied in the previous session. In the previous session, we have studied that how we can drop and keep some of the variables from the existing data sets. So if my data set contains huge number of variables and I need only few variables out of that, or I need to drop only few variables out of my data set, so I can use keep and drop statements. We also studied how we can limit our output with respect to if and where condition. And also we initially started with very basic simple mathematical functions. In today's session, we will start working with the data sets. So we will focus on three different types of variables which are there in SAS. First, we have date variables. Then we have character variables, and third, we have numeric variables. We will look one by one how different functions are used on these three different types of variables. So to start with, we have date variables, and these are some of the functions which we usually use while working onto the real-time data sets. There can be other functions as well, which you can find over the SAS help, but for 90 to 95% of the time, these functions will satisfy your need while you're working for any company and doing any kind of data or business analysis. So to start with, we have a function called MDY. So what we can do is to pull month, date, and year out of the existing variables and combine that into making a proper SAS date. We can use MDY functions. So after covering this slide very briefly, I will go to the actual SAS window. Secondly, we have the today function, and as the name suggests, it will tell you the date of today. Basically, when you are running at whatever date you are running this code, it will tell you the date of that particular day. So if I'm running today, it will show me 19th February. If I'll run it tomorrow, it will show me 20th February. Then time function, it will show me the current time. If I run it right now, it will show me 5:09 p.m. If I run it after 1 hour, it will show me 6:09 p.m. Now, the smaller box below is more specific when we need to derive something from the given date variable. So for example, let's say we have a variable called date, which contains a complete date, for example, 19th February 2022. And we need to pull out only required information out of that. So let's say I need to pull only day. What is the day today? So I can use the day function. If I want to pull what is a quarter corresponding to today's date, or whatever date I want to supply it, it will tell me in what quarter that date falls. Then we have a weekday function, which will tell us what weekday it is. So for today's date, if I pass, it will show me Saturday. Then we have a month function. So from the complete date, it will just pull out the month. So for what month, which month is existing into that date. Then year. Okay. Then when we have two variables or two different date variables, we sometimes need to check, analyze these two variables together. For example, I need to check how many days are there between one particular date and second particular date. So these are two different date variables. I can use int ck function or int check function. Then if I want to, enhance the date, let's say by 3 months from now, 6 months from now, I can use the int nx function. Okay. Then we have the difference function. So basically it will tell you how many days are there between two particular dates, how many years are there between two particular dates. Now, let's go to our usual SAS window. Okay. So let's look from this line. We are creating a data set which contains these variables: city, state, zip, phone, start date, end date, pay rate, days, hours. Specifically, two date variables here are start date and end date. So we have studied earlier how we can input or create a data within SAS. So I'm doing the same here. I'm also using in format and format statement so that my data is displayed in the way I want it to. So first of all, let's run and create this data set and see how this my data is looking like by using proc print. So if you look at the bottom table, I have my this new data set created, which contains 6 observations or 6 rows, and it contains 9 variables. Okay. And there are only 2 date variables here. One is end date, another is start date. So for working for the functions related to date, these 2 variables are of use for us. Now let's see how we can use it. So first of all, this date function. So let's say I want to pull month from the start date. I want to pull year from my end date, and using this, I want to create a new variable called date. So what I can do is I can pass the mdy function. M stands for month, D stands for day, Y stands for year. So I can pull up the month information from start date, day information from start date, and year information from end date. Also, for today's date and time and exact day, I can use these 3 functions. So I'll just run this and I'll go to the log. So 6 observations are created, and now my final data set has 13 variables. Let's look how my data is looking. So till here, these were the variables which are already existing in the data. And I have created these 4 new variables: date, now 1, now 2, and current time. As we remember from our last session, SAS displays the dates in number format. If we want to change how the dates are displayed, we can use the format statement so that dates are displayed in a proper way, like you can see here. So, but now we don't need to go into that because we have already covered it. So we will just focus on functions. So this is how, using the date variable, I have created these 4 new variables. Now, let's start with some other operations or some other functions which we can use on the date variables. So we have a function called day, we have a function called quarter, we have a function for weekday, then we have the function for month and year. So what I'm doing is I'm taking only one variable which is for start date and creating all these new variables using this inherent or pre-existing variable. Now let's try and run this and see what's the output. All right. So we have run this code on start date variable. So correspondingly, if we can see, the day has given me the actual day, the nth day. So here for 19th November 1999, the day is 19. Henceforth, we have got the result as 19. For the second start date, 7th October 1999, I have the date as 7. So I've been given the date as 7. Similarly, for all other dates in the start date variable, for 22nd November, 29th September, 2nd November, and 16th November. Second is the quarter variable. So using the start date variable, I want to identify in which quarter this particular date is falling. So this data set is very small, and somehow all the start dates apart from one fall in fourth quarter. So this date 19th November falls in fourth quarter, then October falls in fourth quarter, then again November, only this September falls in third quarter, then again these two have November as start date. So all of these are falling in fourth quarter apart from this one. Okay. In case I have run the same function on this variable end date, then for example, for the last observation, I have got the quarter as 1. Okay. Now next function we ran was weekday, and using that we have created the new variable wk day. So SAS automatically will go back into the calendar and it will check what was the day of the week for that one particular day. So on 19th November 1999, the work day was 6th. Similarly, for other dates, it will assign you a proper work day. So when I talk about work day, it is when I talk about work day, it's about the days of the week from Monday to Sunday. Then we have a month variable. It tells you the month in numeric format. So for this particular value, I have November as month. So month returned as 11. Somehow all the dates here are mostly November, October, and September, and accordingly, I have the month returned. Again, this start date variable, if you see, all of the dates are lying in same year, 1999. So in the year, I have everywhere I have written, or I can see the value as 1999. Okay. So this is how I can break down the date, or I can check what is particular day or quarter or weekday or month or year from a given particular date. You can keep all these things with you as a working manual, and whenever you can need it, you can come back and check what actual function you need to use, and you can utilize it. You may or may not need to cram all these functions, but yes, sometimes people do ask about individual functions as well in the interviews. So you should be knowing what all these functions about, and to some level you will have to remember them. Okay. So the third part is interval checking. In short, this function is called int check. So I want to check the interval or time gap between two particular dates variable. So I have two date variables here, start date and end date. I want to check what is the interval in these two dates in terms of number of days. So I can mention here that I want the interval to be calculated in days, and then whatever values I want to put here, I will put the variable names here. Similarly, if I want to check what is the difference in these two dates in terms of weeks, so how many weeks are there between these two dates, I have to just change the initial argument from day to week, and the same function will work for me. Similarly, if I need to calculate the number of months, I can provide month. If I need to calculate quarter or year, I can provide them accordingly. So using these formulas or functions, basically not formulas, I can calculate the intervals between two particular dates. So let me run this. I will go to the log. There is no error in the log. It has run properly. I will go from print. All right. So if you see int check day, so how many days are there between 19th November 1999 and 12th January 2000? So there are 54 days between these two dates. I want to check how many exact weeks are there between these two dates. So it will be calculating my exact weeks. I want to check how many months are there between these two dates. So it has calculated the difference is almost 2 months. I want to calculate the difference in terms of quarter. Okay. So this start date lies in Q4 and my next date lies in Q1 of 2020. So it has given me a difference of 1 quarter. Okay. So when it says 1 quarter, guys, it does not exactly mean that the difference is of 3 months. It's just that quarter has changed. Similarly, if you want to calculate the difference in terms of years, so it is 1. So the start date lies in year 1999 and the end date lies in year 2000. It will just see the year values and calculate the difference or the interval difference. So int check year equal to 1 doesn't mean that there is a gap of exactly 364 or 365 days or 366 days. So it's just that that particular hard-coded value of that year has changed by 1. So 1999 plus 1 equal to 2000. So you can say a simple difference is being taken. Similarly, if you see the next value here, so my start date is 7th October 1999. The end date is 17th November 1999. So it's just 40 or 41 days. So it has calculated the number of days, number of weeks, number of months, and the quarter difference is 0. That means both of these dates are lying in the same quarter. Int check year is also 0. That means both these two dates lying in the same year. Okay. Doesn't matter what is the gap between these two dates, but year is exactly same. So that's why we have written, or we can see the value as 0. Okay. True. Now, the next function is int nx or interval next, shortly pronounced as int nx. So it will tell you from one particular date. Let's say you want to check what will be the date after 10 days from now. Okay. You want to get it displayed into the data. So in the real world scenario, as I always say, you will be working on millions and millions of observations. Against every observation, you want to check, let's say, the date on which customer has joined your portfolio. Okay. And what was the date after 2 years when they joined? Somehow, that there's a business requirement or you need to calculate this. So you can use this int nx function here. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the start date and checking after 10 days what will be the date, and here I'm checking after 10 years. Okay, what would be the date? So this is the syntax, guys, how you need to write programs in SAS. Every programming language has its own syntax, which a lot of times they are similar but yet different, and sometimes they are different but yet similar. So yes, but nothing will be 100% similar when you're working across different programming languages. So let's run this and see what we get. Okay. So I have calculated 10 days after this. So from a start date, 19 November 1999, it has given me this date. Okay. And the year after 10 years, the date would be this. So I need to pass the format statement so that these dates can be properly displayed. So I can do that as well. So let's try to use the format statement here. So I have used the format statement. So from the start date, 19 November 99, when I'm adding 10 days, I have asked SAS that 10 day, after 10 days, what will be the date? So it has given me this. Okay. And similarly for all other dates, it is giving me the values. So now let's say I want to calculate only the difference between two dates. Okay. So I mean, I can use the intercheck function as well. And I can use the date diff and year diff function as well. So this is another function which we can use to calculate the difference between two dates. So here, when I'm using the dat diff, so it will tell you how many days difference is there between 2 days, and year diff will tell you how many difference in terms of number of years. Let me run this. So it will tell you the difference between these two, 19th November 1999 and 12th January 2000 is the difference in terms of days or dates is 53 days, and in terms of year it's 0.14772. So it's much less than 365 days. So it's actually 0.14 multiplied by 365 days. So that value will come equal to 53. Similarly, the values for all other observations are calculated. So guys, this was more about functions in terms of date variables. Now let's come to character variables. I'll go back to the slides. So when we talk about the character variables, so character variables are simply your text variables, the variables whose values are written in simple and plain English or any other language, but that is textual, that is not numeric in nature. A lot of times we need to perform multiple functions using those character variables, and these are some of the functions which will help you in the real world when you're working with your actual data. Mostly the functions of the character variables are used to pull out the only required part of a complete string, or assigning it a proper case, or calculating the length of that particular argument or character variable. Okay. So these are some of the functions which we can use, or which we usually use 80 to 90% of the time. You will be using only these functions in your real world when you're working on actual data set in the companies. So first of all, you have a scan function. It will tell you or return a specific word from a character value. So we will understand more when we work on the code for this, but for once, just go through this list and then we will come to the SAS window. Substr will it extracts a substring and or replaces a particular character value. Trim functions is basically pretty much similar what you do in Excel when you have to trim the trailing blanks from the character value. So if your values contains any blanks, after the value ends, so it's not about leading blanks, only trailing blanks. You can use the trim function. For if you want to remove blanks from everywhere, you can use the compress function as well. Then catex is basically it performs multiple things. It removes leading and trailing blanks. It inserts some of the separators as well between values. So this is, I would say, one of the most important function when you're dealing with character variables, and you should definitely know that. People will ask you in interviews about this particular function. And if you go back again to the date part as well, the most important functions to learn here are int check and int nx. These are very important functions, and also mdy function. So these three functions are very important. and are usually asked in interviews. Okay. Then we have an index function which searches a particular character value in a specified string. Then we have these case sensitive, or basically changing the case of particular variable values, upcase, lowercase, and topcase functions. Then we have the tran word. So basically for replacing something, we use the tran word, and then length. So it will just calculate the length of the values in that particular variable. Again, always remember these functions work row by row. Okay? So each function will work horizontally only on your data. If you want to, let's say if you want to calculate the or you want to work on two variables, let's say we're working on date 1 and date 2, then you can use functions. But if you want to do something only on one variable all throughout to the millions of rows, then we have procedures for that. But right now we are focusing on functions only. We will come to procedures in the next session. Now let's come to SAS window. Okay. So this is a small data set which we are creating here. It contains variable name, last name, first name, middle name, phone, zip, and job, or basically it contains the job description. And these are the individual values which we'll be passing. So let's run this and create this data set. Okay. So this is the small data set which we have created. It contains name, the complete name of the person, then last name, first name, middle name, what is the phone number, what is the zip code, and what is the exact job which they are doing. Segregate this a bit. Okay, let's run this, and then I will be explaining you how every function is worked. Okay. So till variable job, we already have had them in our data, and using the functions we have created these new variables. Let's look each function one by one. So where we are creating variable last name underscore v1. This is your last name underscore v1, and what we are doing is we are using the scan function. Okay, and the variable used is name. Okay. And what we are telling it is, give me one word which is followed by the first space comma occurring in my this particular variable. So if I go here, first number which is ended by a comma. Okay, the first value I would say. So here the value which I'm passing is this. Let's talk about this. Tendulkar, Sachin, Ramesh. Okay. So I have passed the scan function. It says use the variable name, then give me first word. Okay. Which has a delimiter at the end as comma. So if you go here, the first word it has written is or returned is Tendulkar. So Tendulkar is the first word which is there in this complete character variable which is followed by a comma. So hence it has returned me Tendulkar. Similarly here it has returned me Hawkins. So it doesn't matter how many letters or letters are there in this, it will be just focusing on the delimiter. So one value existing before the delimiter, it will return that, and that's the same thing it has done here in using scan function. Okay. Now, the next function I'm using here is substr, and substr is used in middle name. Okay, let's not use this. Name. Okay. Let's not name it as middle name. Let's name it as last name. Okay. Somehow the requirement is like that. I just need to pull first two letters only out of my last name. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm passing a substr function which says from the first letter, give me following two letters. Okay. So when I ran this, so I need to rerun this code. Okay. So here I have told SAS using substr function that I need a particular part of the complete string. So I need a substring. From the first letter, just return me two letters. So everywhere it has returned me CI. Here it will return me BE. In Hawkins, it should return me HA, and it has done the same. In Tendulkar, it has returned me TEN. Okay. Now, let's try to change this substr function. Okay. And for example, I need to take okay. So from my ninth letter, I need following let's say 5 letters. Okay. So this works quite similar to the mid function which we use in Excel. Okay. This, and what I get here is starting from ninth letter in complete string, I need further 5 letters. Okay, so here my ninth is starting with blank, so blank, then ELI set. Then here the ninth letter starting from A, then A comma HA space HA, then SHAN for Shane, and then R comma S. So this is how we can use the substring function. I know these values are not making much sense here, but I just want to make you understand how a substring function works. So if you want to pull out one particular substring from a given string, you can use it like this. Now this is pretty simple. You just have to write the trim function and pass on the value job, and it will just trim the value within that. Then let's say if you want, this is also very important function, catx. A lot of time it's asked in the interviews. So you have to concatenate basically two values. Let's say I'm concatenating here phone 1 and zip values with a comma. Okay, so this is how my full contact is looking like. It's telephone comma zip. Then index count. So index function, it will tell you, it will look into the variable job and it will try to find the word, this particular string, word processing. Okay. And it will tell you from which particular position in that complete string this sub part is starting. So if you see here, the word processing is only occurring here. Okay, and it says the count is 14. So that means there are 13 words before the starting of word processing. From the 14th position or 14th index, this word is found. So it has returned the value 14. Then we have this uppercase, prop case, and low case. So if you want to convert a character string into particular cases, we can use this. And then length function, which tells you the length of a particular string. Okay. So here, if you see in uppercase, everything is converted into uppercase. In prop case, everything is converted into proper case. And for low case, I have used middle name. So it has converted my middle name, everything to lowercase. And length variable is calculating the length of job. So it will tell you what is the length of this particular variable called job. Okay. So you can see as well, this is the longest job variable value, and the length here is also the highest. So this is how it is calculating the length. Now to end with, we will work quickly with our numeric functions or numeric variables. So we'll create this small data set which contains all these variables, and numeric variables are spend, Feb, spend, Jan, and interest, which are of our interest here. Okay, so this data set created. Numeric part is pretty simple. It will, you want to calculate the total spend, so it will sum across the variables in terms of rows or observations. Then you're calculating mean of two variables in terms of rows, then min, max, variance, standard deviation. Then for individual variable, you're calculating square root, ceiling, round, and int, or the integer value. So let's run this. So this takes the total spend. So it has added up the spend of January and February and given you the value 500. Then you have mean of these two variables, 2000 plus 3000 divided by 2 is your mean. Okay. Now min will tell you the min of this one particular variable. So you have calculated the min value of the spend Jan, which is 20. Okay, so we have to write min here. Sorry guys, I just changed it. So again, don't get confused. It works on the row basis only. We don't, only procedure works on columns. So out of these two values, it has given you the min, which is 2000, and the max is 3000, and similarly for other variables. Then the variance for this one particular variable, standard deviation. Okay, and what we have done is square root of spend Jan. So for every value of spend Jan, it has calculated the square root. Then the ceiling value, the seal is for my interest. It has calculated the ceiling of interest, round, and the actual integer value. Okay. So if you see, ceiling gives you the highest value nearest to the integer. So it has converted into 13, but if you round it normally, it will give you the value of 12. Okay. And this int part gives you only the integer part. So here the integer part is 12, here the integer part is 1, so the number before decimal. So only the integer part is written. Okay. So, okay. So guys, this is how we work on functions on SAS. So that's it for today. We will cover the procedure in the next class, and then we will move on to some advanced SAS, and then we will finish off this course. Thank you guys for attending today's session. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye-bye.